Football is a violent sport, which is what makes evaluating players still in high school so difficult. With how prevalent injuries are at all levels, it's tough to predict who will actually make it to the NFL. That's what makes things like the USA Today All-USA High School Football Team so intriguing. These young men were among the best of the best, but many of them never found NFL greatness. Today, we're taking a look back at the 1998 USA Today All-USA team and seeing what happened to all 25 players, starting with the offense. Chris Sims, quarterback. Sims is the son of two-time Super Bowl winning quarterback Phil Simms, so it's not a huge surprise that he turned out to be a solid football player. The National Offensive Player of the Year was originally committed to Tennessee, but switched to Texas during his senior season. As a freshman, Sims got some backup duty behind Major Applewhite, most notably getting his first career start against Texas A&M at the end of the season because Applewhite was dealing with a virus that required him to take an IV the night before the game started. Sims started well, taking the Longhorns to a 16-6 lead at halftime. However, he started the second half poorly, and Applewhite was inserted in the fourth quarter only for Texas to lose the game. Sims again took over in the Cotton Bowl after Applewhite went down with a knee injury. The two sort of shared quarterback duties in 2000. Applewhite was the de facto starter, but Sims started several games with the veteran QB out due to injuries. He threw for 1,064 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 7 INTs that year, going 2-1 as a starter. Coach Mack Brown named him the starter before spring practice in 2001. Outside of a disastrous game against OU, where he threw 4 INTs, Sims played well enough to get UT into the Big 12 title game with a chance to play for an NCAA championship if they won. Unfortunately, he hurt his finger in the second quarter, and Applewhite took over down 29-10. He nearly led them to a comeback win, falling just 2 points short. For that effort, Brown decided to have Applewhite start the Holiday Bowl, which Texas won in a shootout. Sims was again the starter in 2002, and he again got them to the Red River Shootout with an undefeated record and a number 2 ranking. Then, he tossed 3 picks and lost to the Sooners once again. Texas was later upset by quarterback Cliff Kingsbury and the Texas Tech Red Raiders, killing their chance of playing for a title. Sims ended his college career with a Cotton Bowl win over LSU. All told, he threw for 7,097 yards, 58 touchdowns, and 31 interceptions, adding 10 touchdowns as a rusher. The Bucs picked Sims with the final pick of the 3rd round in the 2004 draft. The team hoped that he'd replace Brad Johnson within a few years, and he actually went 6-4 as a starter in 2005 after Brian Griese went down with injury, getting Tampa Bay into the playoffs. Unfortunately, Sims ruptured his spleen during Week 3 of the 2006 season. He had to have surgery and lost 5 pints of blood. He later said that he was told if he'd waited another 45 minutes, it could have been a fatal injury. Sims spent a few more years bopping around the league after rehabbing, but never became a consistent starter in the NFL. He effectively retired in 2011 after no team picked him up from free agency. The next year, he was on the Patriots coaching staff, working on offensive quality control and scouting. In 2013, he joined Fox Sports as a college football commentator. The next year, he signed with Bleacher Report as an NFL analyst. Since then, he's moved around the broadcasting sphere, working for NBC as of 2025. His brother Matt also played at the pro level, getting 4 games with the Jets and playing on several practice squads. Nick Maddox, running back. Maddox left North Carolina to play college ball at Florida State. He saw limited action as a freshman in '99, rushing for 111 yards as the Noles won a national title. His touches were again limited in 2000, but he became a more active member of the rotation as a junior and senior. In 2001, he rushed for 438 yards and 3 touchdowns, upping those numbers to 602 yards and 4 TDs in 2002. Maddox added 2 receiving touchdowns and even completed a pass. He was not drafted by an NFL team, but Maddox did do a few stints on practice squads before turning in his cleats for public service. He's been working as a commissioner in his Florida community since 2010 and holds his position through 2026. Dontae Walker, running back. Walker's career at Mississippi State never quite took off the way it was supposed to. Don't get me wrong, he was solid at times, rushing for 795 yards and 9 touchdowns as a sophomore, but it never got better than that for the back. It came to a head during his senior season when he showed up 20 pounds overweight. He ran for 148 yards and 5 touchdowns, but was cut during the season. Sadly, he quickly ended up in legal trouble, picking up a 25-year prison sentence for drug possession in 2005. He was released in 2009 and turned his life around, earning his bachelor's degree from Belhaven in 2013. Sadly, he passed away in 2024, just a few weeks short of his 45th birthday. Paul Arnold, running back. Arnold started his college career as a running back, but was unable to break through as the lead back over 2 years, partially due to a nagging back injury. He did rush for 547 yards and 3 touchdowns, and even returned a kick 100 yards for a score, but the coaches decided to convert him to receiver in 2001. That year, he caught 43 passes for 649 yards and 4 touchdowns. His senior year was very similar, with 37 catches for 517 yards and 5 TDs. Arnold signed a free agent deal with the Colts in 2003, but was cut after the preseason. He was going to play with the Edmonton Eskimos in the CFL, but decided to quit football. Arnold spent several years working as a youth coach, personal trainer, and real estate agent before taking over as a head coach at the high school level in 2016. In 2019, Arnold decided to switch careers and is working as a police officer as of 2025. Kevin Breedlove, offensive line. Breedlove played his high school football at D.W. Daniel in Central South Carolina before heading to Georgia for college ball. He made several All-SEC teams during his 4 years on campus and was the captain of the university's 2002 Conference Championship winning club. Breedlove was not drafted, but signed with the Chargers and played in 1 game in 2003. He spent some time with Tampa Bay and in NFL Europe before hanging up his cleats in 2004. The big guy got into teaching and decided to lose all the extra poundage he'd accumulated as a lineman. He eventually opened his own gym, where he is seemingly still working as of 2025. Vernon Carey, offensive line. Carey signed with Miami and became an everyday player in 2000 after taking a red shirt, even getting a start when Bryant McKinney went down with an injury. He started all 12 games at right tackle during his junior season to make the second team All-Big East lineup and help the team win the BCS national title. During his senior year, Carey moved to left guard and made third team All-American. The Dolphins picked him 19th overall in the 2004 NFL Draft. He spent his entire 8-year career in Miami, starting nearly every game he was healthy for after his rookie season. He never made a Pro Bowl or All-Pro roster, but became known for his versatility along the line and steady play. He retired in 2012 and began working as a high school coach. His son, Vernon Carey Jr., is also a pro athlete, though the 6'10" big fella plays basketball. He was a McDonald's All-American in 2019 and won the ACC Rookie of the Year in 2020 for Duke. The Hornets picked him in the second round of the 2020 draft. He spent 3 years in the NBA before heading overseas to continue his pro career. Vernon's other son, Jalen, is playing basketball for Vanderbilt as of 2025. Tony Pape, offensive line. Pape left Chicago to play college ball at Michigan. The 6'8" tackle was a 2-time All-Big Ten player and 1-time second-team All-American in 2003. The Dolphins picked him in the 7th round of the 2004 draft. He spent a few seasons playing on practice squads and in NFL Europe before moving into coaching in 2005. As of 2025, he's working as a PE teacher and coach back in Illinois. Bryce Bishop, offensive line. Bishop left Florida to play at Ohio State. He sat out the 99 and 2000 seasons before jumping into the starting lineup in 2002. Bishop was a consistent starter for the Buckeyes through 2003, helping pave the way for guys like Maurice Clarett. He did not play in the NFL, but did stay around the game as a coach. In 2021, he was named the head coach of his high school alma mater. Reggie Brown, wide receiver. Brown spent his college career at Georgia. Unfortunately, the dynamic wideout was hampered by injuries throughout his 5 years on campus. That said, he slowly grew into a solid player for the Bulldogs, catching 53 passes for 860 yards and 6 TDs in 2004. The Eagles picked him in the second round of the 2005 draft. It turned out to be a solid move for Philly, as starter Terrell Owens was hit by a suspension, and the young receiver stepped up to give the team 94 yards and a score in his first start. Brown led all rookie receivers with 571 yards, adding 4 TDs. He started the bulk of the team's games over the next 2 seasons, taking over as the team's leading wideout during his second year after T.O. left. He caught 46 passes for 816 yards and 8 touchdowns. The Eagles gave him a 6-year extension during the season, but he started to fall off in 2007. He did catch 61 passes, but only mustered 780 yards and 4 TDs, a downturn from the previous season. He was then injured for much of the next 2 seasons and lost his starting job to Deshaun Jackson in 2008. In 2010, Brown was traded to the Bucs, but was released before the season started. Brown has since gotten into entrepreneurship and coaching at the high school level. From a 2023 interview, he doesn't seem to want to get into coaching full-time, but you never know. Mark Seidman, wide receiver. Seidman went to UCLA to play tight end. As a true freshman, he played in 10 games, mostly on special teams. He played in every game over the next few seasons, growing into a solid tight end. In 2002, he had 41 catches for 631 yards and 5 TDs. That year, he was a finalist for the John Mackey Award and was named to the first team All-Pac-12. The big guy had an impressive combine, and the Panthers picked him in the 3rd round of the 2003 draft. Seidman played relatively well during his first 2 seasons, catching 23 passes for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns as a backup. However, he dealt with several injuries. Seidman ended his rookie season with a torn ACL. He was on the team's roster for Super Bowl 38, but was on the injured reserve. The team thought he might miss the entire 2005 season with another torn ACL, but he rehabbed and played in 12 games. He tore his ACL again in 2006 and was out for the season. The Panthers cut him in the offseason, and he signed with the Colts in 2007. On the first day of training camp, he again injured his knee and was out of football soon after. After his football career, Seidman was working in real estate. In 2020, he was charged with felony vehicular manslaughter and sentenced to 4 years in state prison in 2023. Anquan Boldin, athlete. Boldin was a star quarterback at the high school level, throwing for 2,482 yards and 36 TDs while adding 1,497 yards and 20 touchdowns as a runner. However, he was a wideout for Florida State from the day he stepped on campus. He got some action as a true freshman in '99 when the Noles won a title, but his 2000 season took things up a notch, with 41 catches for 664 yards and 6 TDs. Boldin missed the 2001 season before having a star-studded 2002 with 65 catches, 1,011 yards, and 13 TDs. For that, he made second-team All-ACC. However, his relatively slow 40 time at the Combine led to Boldin falling a bit in the draft. The Cardinals picked him in the 2nd round of the 2003 draft. He was an instant star, catching 101 passes for 1,377 yards and 8 touchdowns to make his first Pro Bowl and win the AP Offensive Rookie of the Year award. The team added Larry Fitzgerald in the next draft, and the duo quickly became one of the best in the NFL. While Boldin did deal with injuries during his time in Arizona, he racked up 586 catches for 7,520 yards and 44 touchdowns across 7 seasons. He made 2 Pro Bowl rosters, and in 2008 became the fastest player at the time to amass 500 catches. Boldin also played in the 2008 Super Bowl against the Steelers, catching 8 passes for 84 yards in the loss. In 2010, Boldin was traded to the Ravens. His numbers weren't quite as gaudy, though he did average more yards per catch, but he did win a Super Bowl in 2012, catching 6 passes for 104 yards and a touchdown. That offseason, he was traded to the 49ers. After 3 seasons of hovering just below the 1,000-yard mark, Boldin surpassed it twice more during his first 2 seasons in San Fran, giving him 7 1,000-yard seasons for his career. He retired in 2016 after a season with the Lions. All told, Boldin has 1,076 catches for 13,779 yards and 82 touchdowns. Since retiring, he's largely been working with his foundation. His son, Anquan Jr., spent the 2025 season playing college basketball for Buffalo. The elder Boldin was a semifinalist for the Hall of Fame in 2025, so he might get in someday, but after 3 years as a semifinalist, it seems more likely that he'll be just left on the outside looking in. Tomas Sanchez, kicker. Sanchez is a hard man to track down. As far as I can tell from looking through old box scores, he kicked for 1 season at Midwestern State in Wichita Falls, Texas, a D2 school. He's not listed on any box score in further years, but does appear to have graduated from the university. As of 2025, it looks like he's working as a manager for a vehicle company in Texas. And now for the defense. Cory Redding, linebacker. The 98 USA Today Defensive Player of the Year decided to become a Texas Longhorn for college ball as part of Mack Brown's first recruiting class. He was an instant force on the line, winning Big 12 Defensive Freshman of the Year in '99. Redding made the All-Big 12 and All-American teams in 2001 and 2002, ending his college career with 201 tackles, 21 sacks, and 53 tackles for loss. The Lions picked him in the 3rd round of the 2003 draft. By year 2, he had become an everyday starter for the Lions, a position he'd hold through the 2008 season, though he often moved between defensive tackle and defensive end. Notably, he became the highest paid DE in 2007, inking a 7-year deal with Detroit. However, he picked up a season-ending injury in 2008 and was traded to the Seahawks. After a single season in Seattle, he joined the Ravens. Redding spent 2 solid seasons there, joining the Colts in 2012 for 3 more years before ending his career with 1 last season in Arizona in 2015. While he never made a Pro Bowl or All-Pro roster, the big guy racked up 420 tackles, 35.5 sacks, 84 tackles for loss, 2 safeties, and 2 interceptions over his 13-year career. During his retirement, Redding has invested in a few businesses and started a foundation. David Paine, defensive line. There unfortunately isn't a ton of information out there on Paine. What's clear is that he signed with Alabama to start his college career. However, he didn't get good enough grades to ever see the field. By 2002, he was reportedly enrolled at Memphis University, but doesn't appear to have been on the football team. After leaving the game behind as a player, it looks like Paine got involved in scouting, most notably with a few teams in the Canadian Football League. His son, David Jr., was a freshman defensive lineman with the Nevada Wolfpack for the 2024 season. Darnell Dockett, defensive line. Dockett had a tough start to his life. His mother was murdered when he was 13 years old, a crime which has gone unsolved, and his father died of cancer 4 months later, so he was raised by his uncle Kevin. While Dockett got his football career started late and even memorably ran the wrong way to return a fumble for a safety during his first game, the big guy quickly became a star in the Maryland high school scene. With 47 sacks across his high school career, it's no surprise to learn that he had offers from nearly everywhere. That said, he is the 3rd guy on this list who signed with Florida State, which means he saw early success, winning a national title in '99. though it's worth noting that Dockett didn't actually do anything that season because he'd taken a red shirt after an early season injury. However, he was shot out of a cannon during his sophomore year, making second team All-ACC. In 2001, he jumped up to first team All-ACC, but had a bit of a down year in 2002 due to constant double teams. In 2003, Dockett was back on the first team All-ACC list, while also making the second team All-American roster and winning the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. The Cardinals picked him in the third round of the 2004 draft. The big guy spent most of his 10-year career in Arizona, becoming a fixture along the line from day one. He made 3 Pro Bowls and 1 All-Pro team, switching between DT and end, depending on what scheme the team was using that season. While Arizona lost the game, Dockett had 3 sacks in Super Bowl 43. Unfortunately, he tore his ACL before the 2014 season and missed the entire year. Arizona released him before the next season, and while Dockett signed with the 49ers, he was cut before the season started and never played again. Over his career, Dockett had 459 tackles, 40.5 sacks, 90 tackles for loss, 4 interceptions, and 18 forced fumbles. Since hanging him up, Dockett has been enjoying his retirement. That said, if his Instagram is anything to go by, the dude still stays in incredible shape. Cedric Hilliard, defensive line. Hilliard was born in Memphis, but played his high school ball at Lamar in Arlington, Texas. The 300-pounder moved again, this time to Notre Dame for his college career. After taking a red shirt in '99, Hilliard became a fixture on the Irish's defensive line for the next 4 seasons. He did go to the Combine in 2004, but wasn't drafted. Hilliard spent 1 season in NFL Europe, playing for the Frankfurt Galaxy. Since then, he's been living a normal life, mostly back in Texas. He's working as a branch manager for a rental company as of 2025. Bernard Riley, defensive line. Riley played his college football at USC. Unfortunately, he picked up a big injury during his junior season in 2001, hindering his progression. Riley got back into the lineup in 2002, but wasn't selected in the 2003 draft. Instead, he spent several seasons playing in the Arena League. After hanging up his cleats, Riley became a high school coach. As of 2024, he was a head coach and athletic trainer in Texas, but he left that position in early 2025. Albert Haynesworth, defensive line. Haynesworth signed with the Tennessee Volunteers for college ball. Playing next to 97 All-USA player Big John Henderson, Haynesworth grew into a second-team All-SEC player by his junior season. He decided to skip his senior season and enter the 2002 draft, where the Titans picked him 15th overall. Haynesworth spent 7 seasons in Tennessee. For the most part, he was a solid player, but he did have a few on-field incidents. In 2003, he kicked a player in the chest during training camp. In 2006, he stomped on Dallas Cowboys center Andre Gerard's head after taking off his helmet. Haynesworth was ejected and later suspended for 5 games, and Gerard had to get 30 stitches for the cut. That said, Haynesworth made the Pro Bowl and All-Pro teams in 07 and 08, picking up quite a few votes for Defensive Player of the Year in both seasons. The next year, he signed with Washington, where he spent 2 seasons, but poor conditioning and disagreements with coaches limited him to just 12 starts over 2 seasons. Haynesworth was traded to the Patriots in 2011, but was placed on waivers after fighting with an assistant coach just 4 months into his time with the team. The Bucs picked him up to finish the 2011 season, and he was out of the NFL after that. Over his 10-year career, Haynesworth accumulated 348 tackles, 30.5 sacks, and 74 tackles for loss. Since retiring, he's been doing quite a bit of work with the NFL Alumni Association to promote healthy living. In 2019, Haynesworth announced that his kidneys were failing, but fortunately, he received a transplant in 2021. Kendyll Pope, linebacker. Pope is yet another player from this class who signed with Florida State. After redshirting in '99, when the team won a national title, Pope backed up All-American senior Tommy Polley and played on special teams. In 2001, Polley had left for the NFL and Pope took over, becoming a second-team All-ACC player in 2002. Big things were expected out of the weak side backer in 2003, but he picked up a few knee injuries during the season, forcing him to split time with A.J. Nicholson and Ernie Sims. Still, the Colts picked him in the 4th round of the 2004 draft. He played in 2 games during his rookie season and was suspended in 2005 for violating the league's substance abuse policy. After 2 years, the Colts waived him and he was never reinstated. Since then, he's largely stayed out of the public eye, though he does turn up at FSU games from time to time. TJ Duckett, linebacker. While Duckett made the list as a linebacker, he was an all-around high school athlete, placing at the state level in the shot put and 4x100 meter relay. When he stepped onto the Michigan State campus, the coaches decided to make him a running back. It turned out well for all involved. Duckett ran for 529 yards and 10 TDs in '99, and followed that up with 2 seasons where he churned out more than 1,200 yards a year. That culminated in a junior season where he ran for 1,236 yards and 10 touchdowns. During both seasons, Duckett was named to the 2nd team All-Big Ten squads, and he decided to skip his senior season and enter the 2002 draft. The Falcons picked him 18th overall, slotting him in as the backup to Warrick Dunn. Alongside Dunn and Mike Vick, Duckett churned out 4 solid years in Atlanta, racking up 2,175 yards and 31 touchdowns. In 2006, he was traded to Washington, where he spent 1 season. He then signed with Detroit for a year before finishing his career as the Seahawks short yardage specialist in 2008. After hanging up his cleats ahead of the 2009 season, Duckett has started several businesses and foundations, most notably his public speaking gig, which he's still heavily involved in as of 2025. His cousin, Mazi Smith, plays defensive tackle for the Dallas Cowboys as of 2025. Lito Sheppard, defensive back. Sheppard went to Florida to play under Steve Spurrier. He spent 3 seasons with the Gators, making 2 first-team All-SEC teams, 1 second-team All-American squad, and 1 first-team All-American team. Not only was he a solid cornerback with 8 career INTs, but Sheppard was also a solid returner, taking 2 punts back to the house during his sophomore season. He decided to skip his senior season and enter the 2002 draft, where the Eagles picked him 26th overall. Sheppard had a relatively slow start to his NFL career, but became a starter midway through the 2003 season. The next year was his breakout season. He picked off 5 passes, taking 2 back for touchdowns, and made the Pro Bowl and first-team All-Pro rosters. However, Sheppard started to get hit with injuries in 2005, which would somewhat hamper his production. Still, he made the 2006 Pro Bowl and was a solid corner when healthy. In 2008, Philly brought in Asante Samuel, and Sheppard fell out of the starting lineup as Samuel and Sheldon Brown played well. The team traded him to the Jets ahead of the 2009 season, but he was released after playing there for 1 year. Sheppard then spent a season in Minnesota and another in Oakland before retiring after the 2011 season. In total, Sheppard racked up 345 tackles, 3 sacks, 19 interceptions, and 3 defensive touchdowns over his 10-year career. After retiring, he's done some work coaching at the high school level and generally seems to be enjoying his post-playing days. Gerome Sapp, defensive back. Sapp left Texas to play college football at Notre Dame. During his 4-year career, the safety racked up 155 tackles, 5 INTs, 3 fumble recoveries, and 9 passes defended. The Ravens picked him in the 6th round of the 2003 draft. He spent 1 year in Baltimore and then 2 years in Indianapolis before going back to Baltimore for 2 seasons to end his career. While mostly a rotation and special teams player, Sapp racked up 111 tackles and 2 sacks across his 5-year career. Since retiring, he's become an entrepreneur, opening up several businesses across the years. His son Ace is a high-level baseball player in the 2027 class and is currently ranked in the top 250. Darrell Rideaux, defensive back. Rideaux had track star speed, playing on USC's football and track teams. On the football field, he was a very good returner and defensive back. On the track, he got his 100-meter time down to 10.27, and his PB 200 meters is 20.96. After finishing his collegiate career, Rideaux played in training camp with the Colts and then spent some time playing in NFL Europe. After hanging up his cleats, Rideaux became involved in real estate and broadcasting. As of 2025, he still does some analyst work with WeAreSC.com and hosts the Sunday Morning Quarterback podcast. Nick Setta, punter. Setta made the list as a punter, but he took over place-kicking duties soon after joining Notre Dame. From 2000 to 2003, he made 46 of 66 field goals, and as of 2010, had the second longest field goal kick in Notre Dame history. Setta went undrafted in 2002, but spent some time on the Saints, Bears, Browns, and Bills roster as a training camp and practice squad player. Setta also spent some time in NFL Europe and joined the Canadian Football League in 2006. With the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Setta became a one-time CFL All-Star. He was released in 2009 and spent some time in the Arena League before rejoining the CFL in 2014 for one last season with the Ottawa Red Blacks. Since retiring, Setta has been working as an athletic trainer at the youth and high school level. And that's the 98 squad. I'll be back with the 99 team in a couple of weeks, but if you have any ideas for other football videos you'd like to see, please share them below.